This is Algebra 1, Lesson 17a, Factors and Coefficients. Let's look at this expression here, and we'll talk about the words from the lesson over to the right. I just called it an expression. We've talked about those before, and it does indicate a product, a multiplication. And we know that because they've got the 4 right up against the x. They could have written this like 4 times x times y. But we know that you can just put them together without a symbol between them, and it means 4 times x times y. They each, when you multiply things together, the things that you are multiplying are called factors. So the 4 is a factor, the x is a factor, and the y is a factor. We have 3 factors there. We're introduced to this word called coefficient, and the coefficient, there's 2 different types. There's a numerical coefficient and there's a literal coefficient. A numerical coefficient is when you're multiplying by a number, okay, a numeral. So that would be your 4 here. That's your numerical coefficient. And your literal coefficient would be x is a literal coefficient and y is a literal coefficient. It's just when you're multiplying by a letter. That kind of looks a little bit like letter, liter, but you can look at it and remember letter. Now, most of the time when we talk about coefficients, we're talking about numerical coefficients. So a lot of times they'll just shorten it and they'll say, what's the coefficient of this expression? And you would say 4, okay? Rarely are you going to see literal coefficient. We just shorten numerical coefficient to be coefficient. All right, so I'm going to scroll this up a little bit. Let's look at another example here. We've got negative 15pq. The coefficient would be negative 15. And the sign goes with the number. So that's your coefficient. Okay. And then we have another one here. The coefficient here would be 81. Okay. And then that's it. All right. Now, the other thing the book talks about is that to remind you that we can do these multiplications in any order that we want. So going back to the first example here, if they wrote this as x times y times 4, it would be exactly the same answer, right? We just typically will always write the number first. We'll write the numerical coefficient first. And you can see that in these other examples, they put the number first. But if you did it in a different order, you would get the same answer.